The midday sun shimmered through the dusty windows of Chief Olubanjo's private lounge, casting long shadows across the marble floor. A tall, greying man dressed in agbada sat on a hand-carved mahogany chair, lost in the weight of a promise made decades ago. His name carried influence: Chief Olubanjo, one of the wealthiest men in all of Western Nigeria. But today his thoughts weren't on business or politics. His mind had travelled back to a simpler time. A village courtyard and a vow made beside a dying friend. "I will honour it, Obiajulu," he whispered aloud, staring into a glass of untouched palm wine. "I will keep my word. Your son will marry one of Nkechi's daughters." That friend Obiajulu had been his brother in all but blood. Before passing, they sealed a pact. Olubanjo's only son, Daniel, would one day marry one of Obiajulu's daughters, ensuring their bloodlines remained intertwined, their fortunes shared and their legacy unbroken. Daniel and his father, however, had other plans. At Mrs. Nkechi's house, "Girls!" Mrs. Kechi shouted from the veranda. "Come quickly." The chief called again. "He says his son is arriving soon. I want this house spotless." And Adaeze, remember posture. Chidima, wear something decent for once. Inside the modest but well-kept compound, 4 young women bustled about. Adaeze, the eldest, rolled her eyes. Her voice was sharp and impatient. "We've been preparing for this son for weeks." "What is he? A ghost?" "He doesn't want a wife. He wants worshippers." Chidima sauntered past in a short, expensive Ankara skirt. "Let him come," she purred. "I'll have him wrapped around my waist like this, belt in 2 minutes." Ifeoma, sitting at the dining table with a book in her hand, barely looked up. "You all act like this is a competition. If the man has any sense, he'll see through the show." Amaka, in trousers and a baggy t-shirt, carried a basket of yams from the shed. She wiped her forehead and smiled. "Whoever he is, I hope he's kind. That's what really matters." Mrs. Nkechi looked at them, her 4 daughters, each so different, and felt a ripple of anxiety. One of them would become the wife of a man she hadn't seen since he was 10. And Chief Olubanjo was still being secretive about when his son would arrive. That same day, while Mrs. Nkechi spoke with Chief Olubanjo on the phone, assuring him that she has raised the good daughters, she briefly added that she needed a helper, and the chief agreed to send one of his servants to her. Chief Olubanjo did so in order to send Daniel over in disguise to enable him meet with the girls and pick a befitting bride. Meanwhile, in disguise, Daniel arrived in a beat-up taxi, wearing simple clothes and a cap pulled low over his eyes. At the compound gate, he noticed a "Cleaner Wanted" sign stuck to the wall. Perfect. As he approached the gate, Adaeze spotted him first and wasted no time. "Hey, what are you doing here?" she snapped. "Don't tell me you came for the cleaner. Job you don't even look strong enough to scrub toilets." Daniel stood calmly, lowering his voice. "I saw the vacancy, Ma. I'm looking for honest work." Adaeze scoffed. "Get out of here. We don't need lazy beggars pretending to be cleaners." Before Daniel could reply, Amaka ran up, pushing her sister aside. "Adaeze, please now. Don't shout at people like that." She turned to Daniel, eyes kinder. "Come in. You're here for the job, right? I'll take you to see Mama." Daniel bowed slightly. "Thank you." In the living room, Mrs. Nkechi didn't scrutinize him much because he was sent by the chief. But something about his face tugged at her memory. "You look familiar," she murmured. "Have we met before?" Daniel smiled politely. "I don't think so, Ma. I'm from a cure." She squinted at him. Maybe I'm just imagining things." He began working as a cleaner that same day. On Daniel's first week as the cleaner, each daughter treated him differently. Adaeze never missed a chance to belittle him. You missed a spot, dummy, she snapped one morning, walking across the freshly cleaned tiles in heels that echoed like gunshots. Chidima flirted shamelessly, leaning over in silk wrappers, brushing his arm. You don't talk much, she teased. I like mysterious men. Ifeoma barely interacted with him, though once. When he picked up her book from the floor, she gave him a soft, thank you. Amaka, though, often brought him food and smiled. You remind me of someone, she said one day. But I know you couldn't be him. He was a rich boy, You're too humble. Daniel chuckled. Sometimes people change. One afternoon, the gateman was absent. Mrs. Nkechi, busy with wedding preparations, handed Daniel the car keys. Wash the car quickly. Guests may come today. He did so obediently, but when Adaeze strutted past, he accidentally splashed a bucket of water right on her pink lace gown. Her scream could have raised the dead. You idiot! What have you done? She screamed. I'm sorry, Ma, Daniel said softly, biting back a smile. She stormed off in rage, saying, I'll have you fired. Mrs. Nicky came running. What is going on? Your cleaner poured water on me like a goat. Adaeze shouted. Daniel stood silent, trying so hard not to let out a laugh. Mrs. Ketchy turned to him. Be more careful next time. Go finish your work. Daniel continued to watch the girls carefully, thinking of different ways to put their characters to a test. Later that week, Chidima slipped into the kitchen while Daniel mopped. Come with me, she whispered, leading him behind the storehouse. You know, no man has ever resisted me. Daniel stepped back. I'm not that kind of man. If you've watched this video till this point, it means you're enjoying it. Why not go on to give a like and hit the subscription button? She reached out to touch him. Every man has a price, darling. What's yours? He looked her dead in the eyes. My dignity. She laughed. Suit yourself. But when I marry your boss's son, don't say I didn't offer you a shortcut to comfort. Daniel laughed. The pride of a woman is her body. I can't believe you'll throw yourself easily at me. A mere cleaner. She became disgusted and stormed off angrily. That evening, Daniel returned to his father's estate under the cover of night. Chief Olubanjo looked up from his recliner. How is the mission going? Daniel sighed. They don't know who I am. I've seen them, lived with them. Each one is different. Adaeze is cruel. Chidima is manipulative. Amaka, she's warm and honest. But Ifeoma, what of her? She's calm, intelligent, sharp. She doesn't seek attention, but commands it with silence. I just need time to be sure. Chief Olubanjo nodded. You have until the ceremony. On that day, I will announce your arrival. Make your choice by then. Daniel reclined back into his chair, his head filled with thoughts. Back at home, Mrs. Nkechi began observing Daniel more closely. He spoke too well for a common cleaner. He held cutlery properly. He read books when no one was watching. He greeted elders with the right proverbs. She began to piece things together, but said nothing. The air in Mrs. Nkechi's compound shifted after Daniel now. Dan the cleaner settled into his daily routine. Though he blended into the household with his ragged shirts and lowered gaze, his presence stirred currents beneath the surface. Every corner of the home whispered a new secret. The daughters, each wrapped in her own world, were oblivious to the deception living under their roof. Mrs. Nkechi, still unaware, gathered her girls for a serious talk over pap and akara one rainy morning. You girls must start preparing yourselves. The billionaire's son could arrive any day. This is no time to be reckless or wayward, she said, eyes scanning each daughter like a general inspecting her soldiers. Adaeze rolled her eyes, tossing her braids behind her shoulder. He's not going to choose a dirty girl with bush manners, that's for sure. She glanced slyly at Amaka, who was tearing a piece of akara with her fingers like a boy. And he certainly won't pick someone who doesn't even act like a woman, she added. Amaka ignored her and dipped her akara in Pat with a grin. He might actually be tired of your type, Adaeze, she said, biting down. Too many layers of makeup and not enough brain. Don't test me, Amaka. I will slap sense into you. Try it and you'll eat this pap through a straw. Enough, Mrs. Nitchie barked. You too will be the death of me. Meanwhile, Daniel was outside, pretending to sweep the veranda while catching every word. His face remained calm, but inside he was making mental notes. Adeeze's arrogance was unmatched. Amaka had fire, and their mother seemed truly in the dark. Later that afternoon, while polishing the floors of the front hallway, he overheard Ifeoma discussing politics on the phone, her voice cool and composed. There was something striking about her. Unlike her sisters, Ifeoma never spoke just to be heard. She observed, she listened, and she only said what mattered. That evening, Mrs. Nkechi's voice echoed from the sitting room. Where is that new cleaner? Probably hiding from Adeeze's thunder, Chidima snickered. Amaka laughed, but before she could say more, Daniel appeared, wiping his hands on a rag. Yes, ma, he said respectfully. The compound is neat today, Mrs. Nitchie said, eyeing him. Where did you say you're from again? Ifeoma. My people are there. I came to the city to find work. You look familiar. Daniel smiled gently. Maybe I just have one of those faces, ma. She stared at him for a long moment. Maybe I saw you when you were small. You remind me of someone. Daniel bowed his head quickly to hide the flicker of alarm in his eyes. Not likely, ma. My mother never travelled much, and I've never been to this part of town. Very well, Mrs. Nkechi said slowly, but her eyes lingered on him longer than he liked. She was very sure he had seen Daniel as a child, but couldn't place an image to recall. Days passed. One morning, as rain clouds threatened above, the gatekeeper called in sick. Mum Nkechi turned to Daniel. You'll have to wash the car today again. My eldest daughter is attending a councilwoman's birthday dinner, and please be very careful. I don't want you having a fallout with Adaeze today. Yes, ma. Daniel took the hose and started rinsing the vehicle. As he was scrubbing the rims, Adaeze came out in a red silk gown, perfume strong enough to knock out a goat. Are you blind? She snapped. Be careful with that hose. My shoes are Italian. Daniel thought to himself this time. Let's see what she will do this time if I poured water on her again. She took 2 more steps, and Daniel accidentally turned the hose in her direction, splashing water all over her dress. What the hell is wrong with you? Daniel bowed dramatically. Sorry, ma. The pressure slipped. Adaeze stormed over and slapped him across the face. Do you know how much this dress cost? You filthy idiot. Daniel's cheek burned, but he stood still. Forgive me, ma. From the window, Amaka saw everything and shook her head. She would talk to Daniel later. Meanwhile, Chidima thought to herself, he is so strong and like that. I want him in my bed tonight. Nobody can take such a slap and not show any sign of pain. I wonder how strong he would be in the room. Later that night, Chidima, wearing a sheer robe and reeking of expensive perfume, walked into the storehouse where Daniel was rearranging cleaning supplies. You know, she said, closing the door behind her, you're quite handsome for a cleaner. Daniel froze. Thank you, ma. She walked closer, slowly circling him. I'm not like my sisters. I like real men. Rough hands, strong shoulders. She touched his arm. Why don't you come to my room tonight? Let's see what else you're good at. Daniel gently removed her hand. I am here to work, ma. Please respect yourself. Her smile vanished. Do you know how many men would kill for a chance with me? Nobody says no to me. Then I must be the first, Daniel said calmly, and walked out, leaving her in stunned silence. Don't worry, I'll get you eventually, boy, she said seductively and walked away slowly. The next day, Daniel visited his father, Chief Olubanjo, under the guise of picking up some medicine for a relative. The chief looked at him over his glasses. You've been living with them for 2 weeks. Who is the one? Daniel sighed. It's not as easy as you think, Papa. Amaka is kind but too wild. Chidima tried to seduce me. Adaeze is full of herself. And Ifeoma? She's different, calm, wise, sweet, but guarded. I'm still watching. Chief Olubanjo nodded. You cannot take too long. I've already told Mrs. Nikichi that you'll be arriving in a few days for the official introduction. You must decide. I just need time to be sure. I can't afford to choose wrong. Daniel pleaded. You've just few days to make a choice, Chief Olubanjo said. Remember, this is not about love. It's about choosing right. You'll have all the time in the world to love her and make her love you, he added. Back at home, Mrs. Nikichi began to notice things. How Daniel was always near Ifeoma when she sat reading on the veranda. How Amaka laughed with him like an old friend. How Chidima eyed him with lust now. And how Adaeze whispered insults under her breath whenever she passed. One night she asked Ifeoma, that cleaner, do you trust him? Ifeoma looked up surprised. I do, he's humble, different. Different? Yes. Too different. Ifeoma frowned. Why do you ask? Because I feel there's more to that boy than he's letting on. I have a feeling I've met him before. Maybe he just looks like someone you know. Maybe, just maybe, she said. Daniel had been working at Mrs. Nikichi's household for a few weeks now, quietly watching, learning. His every move was calculated. The way he scrubbed the compound tiles, fetched water without being told, or swept the courtyard before dawn. Not a speck of dirt escaped him. And yet, it was the daughters he observed more than anything. Mrs. Kichi grew increasingly puzzled by his presence. Something about him unsettled her. His poise, his grammar, his composed silence. He was unlike any help she had ever hired. But she said nothing. She only watched. Amaka, the youngest, was the most naturally drawn to Daniel. Every morning she would offer him cold water after his chores. Sometimes they talked about birds, or how hard the Harmattan wind was that year, or how lonely the compound could feel despite all its noise. You sweep too perfectly, she joked one day, handing him a piece of roasted plantain. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe it's because I know where dirt likes to hide. She giggled. You sound like a proverb. But not everyone was charmed. Chidima, the second daughter, still continued to pester Daniel in secret, often touching him inappropriately or trying to sneak up on him while he took his bath. One evening, while the other girls were away at a church women's meeting, Chidima approached Daniel by the back of the house, where he was arranging the firewood. Her body shimmered with scented oil, her wrapper tied slightly looser than usual. So, Daniel, she began, voice like warm palm wine. You've been quiet since you arrived. Do you fear beautiful women? He didn't turn. I fear many things. Beauty is not one of them. Oh? She stepped closer, brushing her arm against his. You don't talk much, but I see how you look. I look at everything, Ma. It's my duty. Chidima chuckled lowly. No man stays immune to me. Not even priests. You're just playing hard to get. But I'm patient. Daniel turned finally, locking eyes with her. His voice was calm, firm. Ma, if you try this again, I will report to your mother. Please respect yourself. The moment froze. Chidima's smile dropped. Her pride injured like a cracked mirror. She hissed, straightened her wrapper, and stormed away. cheeks burning not from the sun, but from shame. From the shadows, Ifeoma had seen it all. Later that night, Ifeoma found Daniel alone again, this time repairing the broken handle of the garden gate. "You know that was dangerous, right?" she said softly. "I handled it. Chidima doesn't like rejection. She's not used to hearing the word no. You should be careful." Daniel gave her a brief look. "Thank you. But I didn't come here to chase women." "Then why are you here?" she asked, folding her arms. There was a pause. "To learn," he said finally. "You're not like other cleaners. Your English is clean. Your hands have scars, but your nails are trimmed. You think before you speak. You came to study us, didn't you?" Daniel met her gaze. "You're very observant." "So are you." They both fell silent. A strange current passed between them. Not romantic yet, but mutual recognition. Two minds dancing carefully around truth. Elsewhere in the house, Mrs. Nkechi sat in the darkened sitting room, sipping lukewarm tea and staring at an old photograph of her late husband and his friend, Chief Olubanjo. They had taken the picture in Ibadan, many years ago, after their children were born. That friend's son. What was his name again? She picked up the photo and squinted. There, in the corner, was a boy with the same eyes as Daniel. Her hands trembled slightly. Just then, Adaeze burst into the room, flustered. "Mama, have you seen the dress I laid out for tomorrow? It's missing. That stupid cleaner probably moved it." Mrs. Nishi looked up slowly, her voice unusually cold. "Don't call him stupid." Adaeze blinked. "Mama?" "I said don't call him stupid again." Adaeze wondered why her mother had developed a sudden affection towards the cleaner. That same day, Daniel excused himself after chores and travelled to the next village on a quiet motorbike. When he returned, he wore a distant expression. That evening he wrote a letter and sealed it. He would send it to his father, Chief Olubanjo. 2 days later, Daniel sat with Chief Olubanjo at his estate outside town. The old man poured palm wine into 2 calabashes and passed one to his son. "You've seen enough?" the chief asked, his voice low and hoarse. "Not quite, but I'm close," Daniel replied. "And who among them catches your eye?" Daniel hesitated. "My heart keeps looking at a marker, but she doesn't carry herself like a woman. She's too wild, too innocent." The chief nodded slowly. "So? There's another. Ifeoma. Quiet-wise. Like a still river with deep current. But I need more time." Chief Olubanjo looked at him with narrowed eyes. "Time is luxury. The ceremony is near. Once I arrive and announce who my son is, all eyes will be on you. Choose well. I cannot afford scandal or foolishness." Daniel nodded. "Yes, Baba." Daniel's head and heart were at war with each other, trying to decide. Between Ifeoma and Amaka, back at the compound, tension brewed. Chidima avoided Daniel altogether, but whispered venom about him whenever possible. "That boy is proud. Probably a fraud. I heard he once lived in Lagos and got chased out for theft." Adaeze, meanwhile, began planning for the upcoming village ceremony, not knowing it would soon change everything. Ifeoma remained silent, but watched Daniel more closely now, her mind connecting dots. And Amaka, unaware of the storm approaching, was busy fixing the handle of her old bicycle with Daniel's help, laughing freely. "Do you think the village ceremony will be fun?" she asked. Daniel didn't answer. His mind was already on what was coming. "As long as you're there, it surely would," he said. They both laughed. The following day, Daniel woke up early, his body still aching from the chores of the previous day. His hands bore blisters from the aggressive scrubbing of Mama Nipichi's compound, and yet his heart beat with something strangely warm. Was it Amaka's laughter echoing in his head? Or the memory of Ifeoma's sharp eyes catching him off guard as he secretly admired her reading under the mango tree. He got up from the small wooden bed in the cramped servants' quarters, pulled on his plain shirt, and stepped out into the morning sun. But peace was not on the menu. "Cleaner, cleaner, come here." It was Adaeze, standing tall in front of their mother's Lexus, hands on her hips like a queen surveying her slave. "Take these clothes and iron them for me. I'm going out in an hour." Daniel walked over quietly. As he gathered the clothes, Adaeze narrowed her eyes. Her lips curled. "I still don't know why Mama hired you. You walk like someone who's never done a day of real work in his life." Daniel said nothing. He went inside and began to straighten the clothes. But as he continued doing so, an idea struck him. He remembered his father's words. "You must see the truth for yourself, son. Not every fine wrapper hides gold underneath." And so, with a subtle misstep, he slightly overheated the pressing iron and burnt the collar of her shirt massively. The burnt smell soon travelled with the wind, and Adaeze, while watching TV in the parlour, perceived it. "What in the name of all that is holy?" she shrieked. "I just hope it's not one of my designer clothes you just got burnt." "Oh, sorry, madam," Daniel said, feigning shock. "You idiot!" She slapped him across the face before Mrs. Nikichi could react. Amaka rushed out from her room. "What's going on here?" "He burnt my shirt." "It was an accident, Adaeze," Amaka said firmly, stepping between them. "You didn't have to hit him. He's a cleaner. A servant. Know your place too, Amaka." Daniel slowly wiped his cheek and walked back to finish the job without a word. But the sting of that slap wasn't just on his skin, it burned in his chest. Still, he didn't retaliate. That was not the purpose of his disguise. Later that evening, while Mrs. Nikichi sat with Ifeoma in the kitchen discussing her upcoming trade exhibition, Chidima made her move. Daniel was clearing the veranda when she slid out of the shadows. Like perfume in the air, she wore a gown that sparkled like 1,000 stars, slung low on her back. "Hi, handsome," she said, blocking his path. "Good evening, Ma," he answered, his eyes averted. "Oh, don't pretend. I've noticed how you sneak glances at me. I didn't mean any disrespect. Please." She placed her manicured hand on his chest. "I know what I see in a man's eyes. I know how to give pleasure. No man resists me." She leaned in, but Daniel took a gentle step back. "I respect this family too much. I am only a cleaner." Chidima laughed low. "Cleaner or not, you're still a man. If I want you, I'll have you." He stepped aside and walked off, heart racing. That final encounter was all the confirmation he needed. Chidima was ruled by impulse and lust. She would never fit into the life he envisioned. Later that night, Daniel sat under the stars behind the servants' quarters. The night quiet except for the chirping of crickets. Amaka walked up, barefoot, holding 2 oranges and a small knife. "I thought you might want one," she said, sitting beside him. He smiled, grateful. "Thank you." She handed him one and began peeling hers expertly. "So, why do you always look like you're carrying the weight of 10 goats on your back?" Daniel chuckled. "Maybe because I've been around goats too long." Amaka laughed. It was light, genuine, and free. "You know," she said, "I think you're different. Not just because you're nicer than other staff we've had, but because you listen." Daniel looked at her. "Sometimes, listening tells you more than speaking ever will." She looked at him curiously. "You remind me of someone I met when I was a child. He came with his father once for a visit. But, nah, can't be. He was rich and proud." Daniel smiled without answering. Meanwhile, Mrs. Netchi sat alone in her bedroom, frowning. She had seen the tension between Adaeze and the cleaner. She had noticed Chidima's boldness and even Ifeoma's quiet stares. She poured herself a glass of palm wine and whispered to herself, "I must not let my daughters disgrace me before the heir arrives." She didn't know. The heir was already under her roof. The next day, Daniel visited Chief Olubanjo under the guise of needing a break. "Father," Daniel said, kneeling respectfully, "I need more time. I thought I knew who I would choose, but the truth is, I need clarity." Chief Olubanjo studied his son. "Who has captured your heart?" Daniel sighed. "Amaka is pure-hearted and kind, but she's not trained to be a wife in the traditional sense. Ifeoma is sharp, composed, and unexpectedly warm. My heart and my head are at war." The chief nodded slowly. "Use your time wisely. The ceremony is near, and the truth always rises to the surface." At this moment Daniel was confused, and he kept thinking about Amaka and Ifeoma, who would make a perfect bride for him. Back at the house, Ifeoma began to grow suspicious. She had caught Daniel watching her as she taught young kids math under the mango tree. She felt a pull toward him, to a calm presence. One day she cornered him. "You read, don't you?" she asked. Daniel froze. "Read?" "Yes, you quoted Chinua Achebe the other day to the houseboy." He smiled nervously. "Just something I heard in a film." Ifeoma raised an eyebrow. "You're too intelligent for a cleaner." "Who are you really?" Daniel avoided her gaze. "Just someone trying to learn." She didn't press further. But that night, she told her mother, "That cleaner, he's not who he says he is." Mrs. Ketchy's eyes narrowed. Now the day of the ceremony was fast approaching, and preparations and chaos filled the air. Adaeze hoped to capture the heart of the billionaire's son with her beauty, while Chidima aimed to seduce her way into his heart, but Ifeoma and Amaka paid no attention to the idea of marrying the billionaire's son, and rather watch their elder sisters fight over him. Daniel, feeling the pressure building, decided to take temporary leave. "I need to visit my aunt in Abuja," he told Mrs. Nicky. "Family matter." "Go and return quickly," she said, already preparing for the official welcome ceremony. But nothing prepared them for what came next. On the day of the occasion, villagers, friends and well-wishers all gathered at the chief's mansion, the drummers beating loudly, the crowd awaiting the billionaire heir. Chief Olubanjo stepped forward and raised his staff. "Today, we welcome my son, as agreed by oath with my late friend. He is here to take a bride from this house." Mrs. Ketchy turned, confused. "But you said he was yet to arrive." Chief Olubanjo smiled. "He arrived long ago." "Come forward, my son," the chief said with a loud voice. Daniel stepped forward, adorned in a royal agbada, beaded crown on his head, a quiet confidence in his stride. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amaka's jaw dropped, laughter spilling out of her. Ifeoma's eyes widened and her breath caught in her throat. Chidima immediately adjusted her dress, trying to look elegant. Adaeze fainted. Well, if you were Adaeze, what would you do? Probably faint too. The ceremony paused as people helped Adaeze up. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Chief Olubanjo said to Daniel, "Go and show us your bride, my son." Daniel walked past everyone and stood before Ifeoma. "You saw through me," he said softly. "You saw my truth." He knelt, pulled out a ring, and the crowd held its breath. "Ifeoma, daughter of wisdom and fire, will you be my bride?" In disbelief, tears gathered in her eyes. She looked at her sisters. Only Amaka encouraged her to accept the ring. She couldn't believe what was happening, because she never thought she would be chosen. After a while she nodded. "Yes." The crowd erupted. Amaka cheered. Mrs. Nikichi covered her mouth in disbelief. Chidima began flirting with one of the drummers. And Adaeze sat in a chair, wiping tears and muttering. He was a cleaner. But the cleaner was gone. In his place stood the man they never expected. In a world where masks often hide both pride and virtue, Daniel's journey proved that truth and love are never found in riches or titles but in character and heart. The arrogance of Adaeze crumbled, the deceit of Chidima was exposed, and the silence of Ifeoma shone like a lantern in the dark. In choosing humility and wisdom over beauty and charm, Daniel not only honored his father's wish, but also rewrote his own destiny. Mrs. Ketchi learned that raising daughters isn't just about feeding them but shaping their souls. Chief Olubanjo was reminded that sometimes tradition must meet reason. And as Amaka cheered on her sister's triumph, it became clear that not every crown sits on a head. It sometimes rests in friendship. In the end, the quietest voice became the loudest truth. Because in life and in love, it's not who shouts the loudest that wins, but who listens the deepest.